Thank you, Kamal Saab. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to begin by thanking Dawn Group and the organizers for giving us the opportunity to be part of this discussion and for organizing this very topical get-together. Thank you also for your kind words. So as IFC, as part of the World Bank Group, trying to further the climate agenda is a global priority for us, and in countries like Pakistan, which are amongst the most vulnerable when it comes to the risks of climate change, it is arguably one of the most important areas of engagement. There's lots of things I can share in terms of the work we're doing and what development partners are and should be doing more of. But I thought I'd bucket my response in three areas. So your overarching query was, how can development partners help bring the public and private sector side? So I bucketed that response in three topics. To our mind, there's an overarching role in helping develop the ecosystem around climate finance. Within that, there is a role for policy and regulation, and you talked about some of those things. We were involved in the green banking guidelines that the State Bank issued in 2017, the ESRM engagement, which came later, which has Bank Al-Falah and others involved. Day before yesterday, the State Bank issued a draft of the green taxonomy for public consultation, and I hope within the next month or two, once that gets finalized, that's an important piece of regulatory work. The SECP, as you also mentioned in your remarks, has put out guidelines on disclosures, and we're engaged with them on a number of those topics. Beyond that, there is a lot of scope for policy engagement when it comes to areas like carbon credits. There is some good work happening in the VCM space. A lot more needs to happen in that space. A lot more needs to happen in the compliance market. There is good policies out there on green buildings, but implementation, particularly at the provincial level, is an issue. So a lot of work needs to happen on the green buildings codes. And then on the whole circular economy agenda, which is a major issue for a country like Pakistan that's producing over 50 million tons of waste a year, and almost none of it is being recycled. So I think one big area of engagement is around policy, and that is about sort of using the learnings and the knowledge we have from our engagements in different countries who've been on similar journeys, faced similar challenges, to bring in policies that are enabling. The second part of it is capacity building. And again, I think Asim also touched upon it. While oftentimes there is desire, there is a genuine shortage of people in Pakistan that understand these things, from really basic things into ENS consultants and green building certification folks. So there's a lot of work that needs to happen on capacity building, training the trainers, training regulators, training private sector, both on the financial sector side and the real sector side. So for me, that sort of engagement, which no one IFI can do, I think requires all of us, and there's a lot of good work happening between several of the active entities here. Jo is also here. I'm sure she'll talk about what the UK is doing. All of us and more is needed to work on the ecosystem, which is sort of step one. The second part of it is around really working with the financial sector. It is our view that no IFI or any group of IFIs can really help meet Pakistan's funding needs on a standalone basis. We can help instigate, we can help encourage. Ultimately, the financing needs for climate in Pakistan will need to be met by the financial institutions in Pakistan. And that's core to our strategy. So the biggest push we have in the climate space is in the financial sector. And again, Asim mentioned about some of the work that's happening with Al-Falah, which is one of the most progressive banks in this space. There's others also doing really good work, HBL and others. And again, there is an element of that which is around capacity building, systems, knowledge sharing. And then there's an element of that around product development. And that is everything from green loans, green bonds, sustainability-linked loans. I'm actually happy to share that very soon we'll be announcing what will be Pakistan's first sustainability-linked loan. A sustainability-linked loan is a loan where the pricing on your loan is linked to the borrower meeting certain KPIs under SDGs they pick. In this particular case, water is one of the SDGs that they picked, gender is the other. So for us, this is the kind of product that should be prevalent, and everybody should be doing things like that. There are then things like transition bonds and transition loans. So energy transition is a big area in Pakistan. Transition loans and transition bonds are products that fund that transition from a carbon-heavy source of energy to more renewable sources of energy. There are then areas around carbon markets, financing, and various products around it. And the other area in terms of our engagement with the banks is around risk sharing. So oftentimes, while there is interest, while there is a need, risk appetite is an issue for multiple reasons within the banking sector. So one of the things that us and other IFIs are also considering doing is sharing the risk. So, Bank A lends $100 to a company to do something around climate. We take 50% of that. So if that goes wrong, we will take half of that risk, and that encourages banks to get into some of these sectors which are not as traditionally bankable. So that would be the second bucket of what we think is IFIs can do, which is really helping develop the banking sector, the financial intermediary sector in Pakistan. And then the last bit of it is around really developing bankable opportunities. And I think one of the earlier speakers also talked about it. There aren't enough developed frameworks around bankable opportunities. And a big part of it is around public-private partnerships. And again, P3A is an excellent addition, but also the framework of PPPs in Pakistan is that a lot of PPPs sit within the provincial remit, in which of course is very well known to Khalid Saab and others. So we need to build capacity at the provincial level, at the federal level, to try and build in bankable opportunities. And so much of what we talk about in climate has a public and private element, whether that's energy, whether that's water, whether that's solid waste management, whether that's agri. Pretty much all of those areas have an element of public and private intervention. So finding ways to bringing that together is important. The other piece that we're doing on the bankability side is funding some of these things, which is providing long-term financing, which is needed to make a lot of these engagements viable. We have the risk appetite to do these things, and we encourage others to come alongside us. A key sort of ingredient to this mix is blended finance, and that's what you also mentioned in your initial remarks. And we're grateful to our partners in the UK for the SIFPAC facility that IFC has signed with the UK government last year. It's the largest single country blended finance facility that IFC has ever signed globally, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also the largest one that the UK has ever signed. That's right, isn't it?
I think so.
Let's claim that it is. But certainly for IFC, it's the largest one. And it's essentially a climate-focused blended finance facility for the private sector. And it's designed to particularly try and crowd in private investment for adaptation-related areas, which I know over the course of the last 2 days has been rightly so a big topic here. We have also recently engaged with the Green Climate Fund for a private sector-focused water facility in Pakistan. So Pakistan is one of the 7 countries that will be part of this global facility, where again it's a form of blended finance. And this is important, as I think one of the earlier speakers were also saying, that often financing is not available. When it is available, it's not on terms that makes the ultimate investment viable. So if we can make that, at least for this initial period, viable by either reducing the risk or the cost of that investment, I think they'll encourage much greater private investment. So those are the 3 big buckets. There's a lot more to be done, and again, it needs everybody, both on the public, private, and the development side, to work together on that. I'll stop here.